Welcome to Transform Now, a podcast focused on intelligent automation and brought to you by SS&C Blue Prism. On this program, we talk about how organizations globally are rethinking the way they operate, utilizing process orchestration and AI-enabled digital workers to free up humans to do the work that matters most. We also share insights and tips on how you can embrace this new way of working and unleash your full potential. Let's get into the show.
Welcome to the Transform Now podcast. I'm your host, Michael Marchuk. And if you're a regular listener of the podcast, you know that we feature all sorts of guests that are here to inspire you and help you think differently about digital transformation and business transformation. You'll regularly hear us talk with authors and industry experts about AI and the way work is changing. And I hope you like all that content as much as I like interviewing our guests. But today, it's something a little more practical, because as much as we all want to look into our crystal balls and see what things might look like in 10 or 20 years, we also know that we all have to start somewhere. So big thinking is important, but actually taking action is critical, and it can make a big difference. On today's episode, we'll be hearing from Michael Wulff from the Odense municipality in the Netherlands. I'm sure I butchered that pronunciation, so I apologize. We'll be hearing about how Michael and his small team are making a big difference in his organization. So Michael, can you give us a brief introduction?
Well, I am a team lead for the RPA team at the municipality of Odense. My job entails making sure we operate on an efficient basis from day to day. This means being part responsible for our technology stack, the technology we develop, the technology we use, for the people in the team, but also having a lot of conversations with our entire business about what can we help automate and what we can do better. So it's a multi-role that I have. That's both software development, business, and management. So I do a little bit of everything, and I do everything that needs doing. I ended up in RPA by accident. I guess a lot of things in life, when you look back on them, are by accident. I started out my career 25 years ago as a professional developer and have written a lot of software on many platforms. I've worked as a systems administrator. I have a background in Unix and Linux and operating systems. My path to RPA was when I decided to try my hand at management, and I was not selected to go into management, so I decided to change jobs. And when that decision was made public, someone else called me and said, I have this RPA team, and maybe we need some more technical jobs on this. Would you mind taking over the RPA team? And I was honestly skeptical, because RPA had been mentioned as the duct tape dead end for old systems. What I found was that the truth was way more complicated and way more interesting. What I very early realized, I think it was day 2, that RPA processes and automations are software and need to be treated as software. So we had to change our focus. We had to go into say, this is a software engineering problem to make the technology work, and it's a human problem to make automations work. And we have to marry these two. And suddenly I found myself spending half my time talking to people and half my time writing technology. And that was just an amazing experience. It turned out that for me, that was a shelf I never envisioned myself being on, but it was just the right fit at the right time. But it was an accident.
So Michael, you're obviously not building all of this on your own. How do you engage with the stakeholders in the organization to help support them?
We believe in relationships instead of contracts. We believe in cooperation and transparency. And we try to take this to our business. So when you wish to have my team build an automation for you, you will not face a wall of documents and disclaimers and bills and stuff. We will show up at your desk. We will sit down and we will walk not only 1 mile, but 10 miles in your shoes and try and understand what is it that's actually wrong here. And sometimes we can help and sometimes we can't. And sometimes other people are better at helping. But it's this whole we are here to help philosophy. We've tried to take it to the next level. And the good thing is, when you have a personal relationship with the people that you build automations for, a lot of catastrophes become smaller catastrophes. Let me phrase it like that. So, for instance, an automation breaks, and you call them and you say, your automation broke. Most of the time, the response you'll get is, okay, when do you think you'll have it fixed, or what happened? But it's not going to become a war involving management and a blame game going around. it becomes a joint venture to fix the problem. So we really, really value these relationships between the RPA team and the business. And it sort of is our core philosophy that it's really about people. Because you cannot automate what you do not know. And you, as an RPA team, we do not know all of the business, and we need them to tell us. But we also need them to trust us when we have a crazy idea. So if we have an insane idea that we can automate this in the most bonkers way possible, we need them to trust us that we can try. So relationships is everything. It's even something we try to screen for in our hiring process, that we get the right people who can build relationships. Even our developers are screened for this ability. So we consider it the most important thing in automation.
It sounds like you're doing quite a bit to keep this thing working smoothly. Is this a large group of people that you're working with, or are you more of a small but mighty team?
Small but mighty, that is probably a good way of phrasing it. My team consists of 7. We have, if you count me as a developer, we have 5 developers, or we have 4 full-time developers. We have 2 business analysts, and of course myself, I have a multi-role in this process. So we tend to think of ourselves as a very cohesive unit. On the completely basic stuff, we run a classic Scrum process with very few adaptations from classic Scrum. We try to just help each other, and we are, in many ways, I would say, we have agreement on what we do and why we do it. The thing about being an RPA team for a municipality is it's about helping our colleagues and ultimately the citizens. They are, in the end, the ones we are there for. And I think that appeals to a sense of camaraderie and being together on a mission that's more than just the bottom. We have a greater purpose than just making money. We're trying to help. And I guess that for many of us, it's a very motivational. It's a high motivational factor.
Now, we often think of large companies in the commercial sector building complex, intelligent automation infrastructures, but this is public sector. Are the opportunities all that different between public sector and commercial organizations?
I think a major difference in what I see is, if you think of a municipality as such, if you think of this as this very big thing, it's a little bit the wrong picture. Now, if you imagine you're a giant corporation, you sell 700,000 somethings. You have the opportunity to automate 700,000 billings. Now, municipality is more like 500 small companies all working on behalf of a city together in a single group. So what is really different is automations for municipalities will always have lower volume. This is simply the nature of the game. And that creates unique challenges insofar that if we have to spend a year to build an automation that can only solve 200 problems a year, the math doesn't just add up. It doesn't make any sense. So we were forced early to reckon with the fact that we have a lot of IT systems and we have a lot of small tasks we need to do. So our focus from the start was, how small can we build them? How fast can we build them so they're stable, easy to operate, and can solve these small problems? So I think there's a core philosophy there that we have to be lean and mean, because if we're not, we simply can't solve enough problems.
You pour a lot into your team to help them succeed and grow, because this doesn't just happen overnight.
We pride ourselves on our technical excellence, that we are incredibly good at writing or designing processes, that they're consistent, they follow standards, they operate on a certain level of stability. And as the years have passed and we've achieved this technical excellence, it's become even more about being excellent at dealing with people and making sure we help people to gain value from the agility and the speed we've come up with. We seem to have hit the limit of how fast we can move compared to the rest of the organization, because it is basically a freight train and a bullet train passing each other. So this is probably how fast this is possible to do, which is 2-3 weeks. But having a team that can do that and being good at it and being able to do it consistently, I think, is key to great teams. It's this consistency. Also, we are not afraid to admit, and we have built a culture that it's the right thing to do is to admit a mistake. It is also the right thing to do to go back and pay your technical debt so it doesn't add up, so we are not saddled with a mountain of technical debt. And that just means from time to time, we take time off from this insane schedule to rebuild, to fix, to redo, and pay old debt. This is also something that helps us keep our developers happily employed. They love it when they can get something out that's been bugging them for a year. I'm going to fix this next week. And it's like, it's good. We'll reserve time for it. And I think it's an overlooked quality in the best teams. Go back and pay your technical debt. Because otherwise, at some point, you will have so much debt that you will do nothing but paying it off every day in operations. And in RPA, it is very much in operations that you pay for any unpaid technical debt. So it's a philosophy, it's people, it's always people. And it is the sort of the will to sometimes just pay your debt and admit when you're wrong. This is how you grow.
Your team is looking to innovate and try new things. How do you provide that space for them to innovate and experiment?
The funny thing is, when you say, how do you make sure our team has the space? The first thing you start by doing, in my opinion, is you start by just saying out loud, it is okay to try crazy things. If you build a culture, a zero failure, zero tolerance for failure culture, you will get no new ideas. You will get no risks taken. You will never hear a crazy idea if you have that culture. So we've tried to build the opposite culture, that we can take risks. We can make mistakes. We evaluate it when we do, and we think, how can we avoid this? And especially if data security is on the line, we're a little more sort of, we take care of data because that's a whole different story. But we have a culture where if the idea is crazy, but we think it just might work, let us try it. Because sometimes we invest 2 weeks of work into it and they're wasted, but they're not. Sometimes when the idea works out, we get something amazing. And when the idea doesn't work out, sometimes there's a spin-off idea from the 2 weeks of work we did that pops up 3 weeks down the road or a month or a year down the road. And suddenly that spin-off idea has value. So I think it's more of a management style thing. Rigid management will kill any creativity, any idea. But management that says, let's try it, but also says when it fails, oh, well, it failed, we learned something. You need to embrace it on a deep, deep level as a team and as the management of a team. I tend to say that when everything goes well, I will blame my developers. When everything goes badly wrong, it's my fault. Sort of the buck stops here. And you need that space, and you just need to make room for it. And it's small things. It's like, hang up your posters. Put up personal posters that inspire you. Somebody posted a good quote in the team chat. Let's print it out and put it on the wall. Let's make this space where you can be creative, where you feel safe, where you can come up with an idea and just throw it out there. Let's work it.
So speaking of inspiration, you've named your team, and I think it's a much better way than simply hanging a poster. You call your name the RPA Pirates, and I need to know more.
Yes, this is another one of those great catchphrases. RPA Pirates means, again, we're willing to do things the Navy never would to make this work. We're willing to just show up in the most crazy situation and just attack the problem, whether it seems hopeless or not. We're willing to just, if you think about how Asterix fights the Romans, we see ourselves more as the villages. We're willing to hit them with a fish if that's what it takes. And sometimes you just need to hit an automation problem with a fish. So it's more like that. It's the willingness to not be bound by a set of arbitrary rules, but just consider, all right, the law is of course an absolute. We follow the law, but there are no rules for how we solve this problem. We will go into any situation, any automation idea, try and keep a blank slate and say, how do we solve this particular problem? What kind of hammer do we need? What stick do we need to beat this with? As whatever it takes to find the right solution to automate this problem. So that's where the pirate image comes in, because it's people who understand how to work together. It takes cooperation to run a pirate ship, but also to break the rules.
Now, you're not doing this in a vacuum. You have sponsorship from your management teams to support your efforts. Are there any tips you can provide for organizations who are trying to influence their leadership?
I think in a way we were lucky that the first effort did not work out so well as it could have. So there was an opportunity for new thoughts. So the first thing we did, or I did, was to say, all right, let's start using Scrum. In this way, we run 3-week sprints. In this way, management gets a report every 3 weeks. And they get a very detailed report. What's going on? What are we doing? What do we plan to do? This helps the relationship immensely, but it also creates the space to work and take chances. Our management has been, after they've sort of gotten used to this idea, been incredibly supportive of it and has a very much a hands-off approach to the team. We sort of run ourselves, and we talk to them if we have a problem, we need help, or we see them much at end review and planning, and this then becomes the focal point for management control of this team and where we're going. And they will then tell us, we need you to focus on the healthcare part of the municipality for the next 5 months because we have a lack of staff, or could you please prioritize this part of the municipality for a while? So it more becomes what management should do, set the direction. This is what we would like you to work on. And we'll figure it out because we're out in the trenches every day talking to people, and we know where they're ready to automate, who will be ready and who's not ready, because we talk to them. So I feel this management spaces, we've been so lucky that they've sort of found that the method works.
So how do you balance the management expectations and the feasibility when it comes to determining what to automate?
Well, of course, as I think most automation teams do, we also look at how much potential is there in this, whether you measure that in money or in hours work or in quality of work. We try to have I'm going to overuse the word, we try to have a holistic approach to it, because if there's only 10 tasks to solve every month, it might not be interesting, but if each one of these takes 12 hours, suddenly it's interesting again. So we try to, but also if we can guarantee our citizens a better service, it might be worth doing, even if there's not much money in it. So it's a balance of many factors. And I will admit, it's not always a consistent thing. It also becomes an intuition thing. But we do tend to keep track of how many tasks we've completed and in sort of half a mile terms, how much money that in some way has saved. But for many of them, the disclaimer is it might be work that was never done before because it was not feasible to do it. We did not have the personnel, or it might be quality lifting that we do. So there's so many aspects of this prioritization of when and how to do what. It really becomes a thing of, a bit of intuition, a bit of math, and a bit of people.
So the world seems enamored with generative AI. What are your thoughts?
I guess these days it's hard to have a technical talk without saying the words AI. So I'm just going to say large language model again and say, we have a vision where these will become tools to understand text, not so much as to generate. I think the world has enough text as it is, but I believe it could become a powerful tool in automation for understanding text that humans have made. And I believe that is it's an area of ongoing research, also of data safety, privacy concerns. But I do believe the technology over the next few years will show some amazing potential in this area. I believe for this year, AI will get 90% of the hype and we will reap 10% of the benefits. And automation and RPA will probably get 10% of the hype, but will provide 90% of the benefits as the technology stands today.
Well, Michael, thank you so much for giving us an insider's view on how your automation program is working and helping to inspire everyone to channel their inner pirate, arg, and look for new ways to innovate. So I'm so glad you were here to join us today.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Transform Now, the podcast from SS&C Blue Prism. You can find all of our episodes on your favorite podcast channel, as well as YouTube. To stay on top of the hottest topics in the world of intelligent automation, subscribe now. The future of work is here.